For over 1,000 generations, the Jedi Knights were the guardians of peace and justice in the Old Republic. Before the Dark Times. Before the Empire.
Now. Hey, what's up, guys? Chris Stolle back with another Journal of the Jedi, and this time I'm going to be sitting here talking to a guy who may have or may not have seen a Star Wars movie. It's still in debate. He may or may not have seen a comic book. He's a host of a Star Wars podcast. I'm going to let him tell you all about it. Mr. Michael Ehmcke. Michael, how you doing?
Pretty good.
Nice. So, yeah, tell everybody what you do, what you're about, what got you into Star Wars, and, of course, your show. Let's learn a little bit about you here.
What I do, well, real job until Sunday the 19th is I'm a audio engineer / stagehand at Walt Disney World, mainly at the Epcot Park. And besides that, I'm also a host of Wookee Radio, of Mighty Marvel Geeks, of Weeby Geeks, owner of all three shows, producer of all three shows, also owner of the Weeby Geeks podcast collective, which is, I guess you call it a podcast network. It's just, I don't want to use the word network anymore. I want to be different. So
I remember us having that conversation before.
Yeah. It's getting to the point. It's like everyone is calling their podcast a podcast, and Wookee Radio just happened to be different. I mean, are we truly on a radio station? Well, sort of. We're on a Disney internet radio station called Sorcerer Radio every Saturday.
Nice.
But it's one of those, and Mighty Marvel Geeks is there as well. But it's just one of those in the Star Wars universe. Who cares? It's radio. We treat it almost like we're a radio talk show on the HoloNets.
Well, there you go,
so to speak. Plus Wookee Radio just sounds so cool.
It does.
I was surprised it was available when we went with it.
I'm actually kind of jealous. I was actually very proud of Journal of the Jedi until I heard Wookee Radio and was like, man, that's just so much better.
Then you look at some of the other podcasts out there. It's like, those are cool names too. I'm so glad I didn't go that direction, or that show wouldn't existed the same way it does now. But it's cool seeing some of the other names out there.
One of my favorites. I'm heavy into the role play. People doing like tabletop Dungeons and Dragons style shows,
right.
And I discovered a troupe that was doing the new Star Wars, the Edge of the Empire game system, and they call their show Dumb Scum and Villainy, because the production company is Dumb Dumbs and Dice, so the show is Dumb Scum and Villainy, and
that's cool.
It's absolutely hilarious of a show, but I love that name.
I have a D&D roleplay group, a roleplay show on the collective called Dirge of Dragons.
Don't tell me that. If you're a DM, we will be talking.
I'm not a DM. I haven't played in over 25 years.
We have a sister channel called Sounds Dicey Gaming, and that was launched primarily for tabletop roleplay. We were doing a 5th edition campaign of Dungeons & Dragons that we were calling Chronicles of the Lost Realm, and it was actually a really decent show. We lost our DM, and the show has been on hiatus while I've been searching for a new DM, and people have been begging for the show to come back, and it's hard to find a DM that, wants to create their own world, but I want to keep what's already been done canon. So it's like, can you build off of this? You know what I mean? Type deal.
Well, if it tells you how long it's been since I've played.
Right.
Forgotten Realms and Oriental Adventures had just been out maybe 2-3 years.
So 2nd edition.
Yeah.
You're a man who still appreciates Thaco.
Yeah. Yeah. TSR was still in existence at the time.
You know what? I was one of those D&D purists. I'm not gonna lie. I was against when Wizard of the Coast took it over, and I don't even know who has it now. I'm not sure if Wizard still has them or not. But
I think Wizard still does.
It took up until 5th edition for me to pick up D&D again after TSR lost it. I was a purist. I didn't believe in the D20 system that they were now putting out and everything. I was just no, you're changing it, you're dumbifying it, you're turning it into Magic the Gathering light.
Yeah.
But 5th edition is actually pretty fun, I can't lie.
Well, I had, just for the sake of having it, I don't even know what game system it was for, but I did have a D100.
Oh wow, D100 die?
Yeah,
it's basically a ball. It's basically a ball.
Practically a golf ball.
Yeah. So you say that on Wookee Radio, getting back onto the topic at hand, you say that you treat it more like a HoloNet thing. So obviously, as I know, you do have guests on the show. And
yep.
What are usually your topics of conversation? Like, is it more like a radio drama program, or is it?
No, it's just three of us getting together each week, and if we have guests, it's a conversational type interview where say we're at Star Wars Celebration or at a comic convention, and we just happen to go someplace to grab a bite to eat at the end of the day,
right?
And we're just sitting down and just shooting the bull. And don't know if you allow swearing on your shows, but
oh yeah. You're free.
We keep ours family friendly.
Well, being on Disney's radio's internet radio station, you have to.
Well, it's not Disney owned; it's a fan run station, but they still keep the same philosophy.
Yeah.
Plus, I try and keep my shows family friendly anyway, because you never know who's going to be listening, and I want it to be safe for people to listen to at work.
Well, no, I get that, and I used to hold that philosophy, especially when we were on a internet radio program called radiocastfm.com, and I would allow swearing, but I would pre-record the shows and I would bleep out the swearing, and it was too much. So when we lost Radiocast, I didn't care. I just let it rip. I don't care. But you're not wrong. It should there is a place for censorship, especially if you want a broader audience. So
now with Weeby Geeks, if I have a guest on that is and they swear, I don't even fight it anymore. I just okay, leave it. Nice thing about the plugin I use on my website is I can take each individual episode and say, this one's explicit, this one's clean, and away we go. So if it's explicit, I label it explicit and don't look back. That's
pretty much what I do with this. I mean, the places I release is I do let people know that if it's vulgar or explicit, like you said, then it's marked as such. But if it's family friendly or kid oriented, then absolutely, for all ages. I do try to at least label it that way, so nobody gets broadsided like, oh look, a Star Wars show, F this, F that, F this, F that. Oh, my kid can't listen to that.
I know of a Star Wars show that's like that, and I question how much they actually talk about Star Wars. Because they're more focused on talking about beer and IPAs than they are Star Wars.
Oh, is that? I don't want to throw people under the bus. That's that drunken Jedi, or I think he's called, or something.
We'll talk after show.
Yeah, we'll leave it for after that. Yeah, the Journal of the Jedi was born from one, I had two other Star Wars shows that used to be part of Realm of the Mist. That were controlled by other people, and when they left the company, for lack of a better term here, I created Journal of the Jedi to replace them.
Right.
However, the idea of even a Star Wars show was actually born from Collider's Jedi Council. Was actually the Star Wars show that made me want to sit down and discuss Star Wars. So, what was
for me? It was the original Force Cast when Jimmy and Jason were on the show and hosted the show.
Okay.
So that was the Star Wars show that got it for me. Because it seemed like that was the one everyone was listening to back around 2010.
Okay.
And then since then, I listened to several others, and I used to listen to their new show, which is Rebel Force Radio. But the way their content's changed some, and it just doesn't fit my vibe anymore for Star Wars, for Star Wars podcasts. And I've got so many others I listen to now.
Well, as I believe I told you off air before, even though I'm no longer business-wise associated with the two former shows that were on here, they're still running strong, and I would highly recommend you to check them out if you wanted to, or even contact their hosts and do something with them as well. Brian Miller and his Star Wars Canon podcast is an absolute delight. It used to be known as Star Wars Canon Library, and he mainly dealt with the canon stuff as far as books and comic books were concerned. But he does delve into the movies and stuff as well, the lore, And then, of course, there's War of the Stars, a Star Wars podcast, which is John Mark Tully is the host, and he was one of the first members of Realm of the Mist, and his show. It's still trying to find its identity, but he does have great ideas. Like, for example, he's done a run of all the lore of the female characters of Star Wars, and he's done What If series. Like what if Anakin hadn't turned to the dark side, or what if, like, speculation type shows, which are very fun and entertaining. But War of the Stars still is trying to find its exact identity of what it is to be. Right now, it's still like a mosh podge of whatever comes to mind is what they talk about.
Right.
But two great hosts, and highly recommend their shows, guys. If you're a Star Wars fan, go check it out.
I believe I am following War of the Stars, and they're following me back on Twitter.
Yep, that would be him.
Woohoo!
But yeah, you can find them on pretty much where you can find podcasts, YouTube, on iTunes, etc. So right. not just for you, for everybody listening at home. If you want more Star Wars content, I highly recommend those two. But just what is it that made you want to feel like you had something to say about Star Wars? Like, to give you an example, as I said, I was brought in from Jedi Council, but I didn't always agree with their points of view. And my involvement into the Star Wars podcast community was really like almost like a rebuttal to their reviews.
For me, it's with my other shows, and then one with my one co-host, and then my other co-host who actually runs. It's funny. Ken and Kylan's one of my co-hosts on Mighty Marvel Geeks. Both run a show called Geek Watch One.
Okay.
Ken, we would always, after we bring Geek Watch One onto We Be Geeks, it would be, we should talk Star Wars. We should be talking Star Wars. All the Star Wars talk. We should be, and Derek's like, yeah, I would love to talk more Star Wars. And Wookee Radio was born out of that. Just we're like, why didn't we do this sooner? So yeah, it was just that simple. And we originally started off recording 2 shows a night.
Oh wow!
Or no, we were going to record every other week, and then we were going to go 2 shows. Then we were recording 2 shows a night when we first got invited to come on to Sorcerer Radio, because we were still going to keep it at twice a week.
Okay.
And we were recording, or twice a month, and we were recording on Saturday nights. Well, since the show airs on Sorcerer Radio on Saturday nights, like, well, we need to move the day, so I got time to edit and get it uploaded to their server so we could have it.
Right.
So with that, it became, we started doing, we started going weekly.
Wow.
And been weekly ever since. So I'm recording 3 nights a week.
Okay. And
so each show has its own night.
But again, it's not live. You pre-record and yeah.
We pre-record and then put it out. Yeah.
Okay. And people can find this where? So that way they can check out your show?
The website is wookieradio.net, but pretty much any podcast platform you listen to, we're there. If we're not, drop me a line at mike@wookieradio.net, and I'll try and get it on that platform.
I'm pulling up Podcast Addict right now as we speak.
I think I'm on Podcast Addict.
Well, good. Then I'll find you. Actually, you'll find Dumb Scum and Villainy on there if you go look for them. That's where I listen to them from. But yeah, so what are some of your favorite topics of conversation to tackle on your show? Like, I know you probably hit a broad range, but like, what are some of the ones that like seem to light the most fire out of your soul when you're like, oh yeah, let's talk about this?
The one that puts me on a soapbox is when we get talking about the old EU.
Okay.
And how people are clamoring, oh, we don't like Disney because they ditched the old EU, and we want the old EU back because we want the original canon back. It's like, hello guys. George Lucas himself even said the original EU. And this is before he even turned Lucasfilm over to Disney. The old EU was never canon.
I think
Period.
the only thing he ever said was I don't know if he ever said it was actually canon or it would be considered canon, was Timothy Zahn's Thrawn trilogy.
Thrawn trilogy. Yeah. Heir to the Empire.
Heir to the Empire. But beyond that, yeah, everything else has always been just, for lack of a better term, fan fiction.
He hated Mara Jade.
I don't understand why he hated Mara Jade, but
he just, because it went the whole route of she eventually married Luke, and the Jedi did not get married. The Jedi did not have relationships, even though we come find out, Anakin did. But we see what happens with Anakin.
Well, I was about to say there was a purpose behind that.
but we also find out too that Obi-Wan had a relationship with Satine. We find that out in Clone Wars when he goes back to when he goes to Mandalore, back during the whole Death Watch.
I was fully expecting Rey to be born from that lineage. By the way, I was really expecting that deep cut. I'm not surprised by spoilers by the Palpatine story arc, but I was really rooting for the Obi-Wan story arc because of the Satine. And how subtle it was.
I wasn't sure. I know I made some comments on Wookee Radio, but to be honest with you, I don't remember what I've said. But I think at one point we kind of called Palpatine because her fighting style was very similar,
right,
to Palpatine.
I think the only thing I was kind of right or half right about with that whole entire who's Rey's parent lineage thing, I was right about two things. One, I knew in Last Jedi that Kylo was full of crap. Well, he wasn't, but he was giving a certain point of view answer to it. Like, I knew it was a red herring. But I also knew at the end that Rey would be a Skywalker. Now, granted, I didn't see them choosing it to be that she just took on the name, but
Right.
so I guess it's kind of semantics, but I knew Rey would be a Skywalker at the end of it.
It didn't bother me that she took the name Skywalker. I think I would have been a little bit more satisfied if she took on the name Organa.
I don't know. I kind of like the Skywalker because even though, Leia was an Organa, was adopted Organa, she was Skywalker through and through. And,
Right.
And I think because she saw the good in Ben, even though Ben was a Solo, knowing that he's a Skywalker lineage and Luke, his redemption through her, because he really needed the redemption through her, which a lot of people seem to forget about in Last Jedi. Was like, okay, they're all disappointed that Luke took this bad turn, and became this crabby old hermit that drinks green milk. But
Right.
the story arc isn't necessarily that Luke, fell from grace because, well, let's face it, that's been set up in the original trilogy. Luke's impatient, brash, and when things go wrong, he has a habit of brooding over it, whining over it, and then take on
Right.
the fact that he learned from Obi-Wan and Yoda, two guys who, when they failed at something, what did they do? They went into hiding and became hermits. It's kind of what he knew to do. But that dark and brooding side, the story arc of it was Rey was the one who brought him out of that. Rey was the one who refocused his purpose.
Right.
And then whether you agree with that or not, because I know a lot of people are like, oh, she's a Mary Sue or whatever, but that was the story arc they were trying to tell. And when you look at it from that standpoint, Luke's story arc was a lot better than people gave it credit for.
Yeah. A lot of people, when we would talk about it at work, they called Luke a pansy. That's not the Luke we had from the original trilogy. If he knew his friends were in trouble, why didn't he just go and do something? Why didn't he go and stay hidden? Well,
look who he had for mentors.
I mean, hello. It's like another one that recently we talk about that's kind of gotten me. This was a recent conversation. Everyone complaining about how horrible the current trilogy is in comparison to the prequels, and the prequels were such a great trilogy. Okay. No. And let me explain. Look at the original trilogy. The original trilogy was mediocre as well. I mean,
call it what it is, yeah.
I mean, it was mediocre. But it came in a time period where everything was so fresh and so new. Mediocrity, it was one of those times mediocrity was rewarded.
Right.
And rewarded well. So when the prequels came out, again, when you and I saw the original trilogy, we're kids.
Mm-hmm.
So mediocre to us as a kid with these films is God's gift to movies, God's gift to playtime, God's gift to sci-fi for us. When the prequels came out, we saw it from our parents' point of view. These are kind of mediocre.
Mm-hmm.
But who loved it? The kids.
And the diehard Star Wars fans.
Well, don't get me wrong. I love the prequels, but the original trilogy was so much better in my eyes. Whereas my dad would be able, if he was alive, he would have told you they were great films, but they're all about the same. Because he saw it as an adult and saw if they were all mediocre, they were all mediocre. The original trilogy, I mean, this new trilogy is mediocre. But my daughter loves it. Why? She's a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy the films. But Last Jedi is the one I'm the most critical of.
You know, it's funny when because you and I are both old heads. Obviously, the Holy Trilogy is the original trilogy. That was the lightning in the bottle. As you said, it was mediocre to adults, but to the rest of us, to the rest of the world, to the kids, to the people that grew up in that time frame when there was nothing else like it on the planet, greatest thing that ever happened. It was lightning in a bottle. It'll never happen again. The prequels and the sequels are absolutely proof that it'll never happen again. However, that being said, I could pick apart every single, 11 Star Wars movies right now? I could pick apart every single one of them from episode 1 to episode 9. Rogue One, Solo, I could tear them all down and find something wrong with each and every one of them. However, from a fan standpoint, I watch episode 1 to episode 9 with Solo and Rogue One in there. And I mean, if you ask me to list it off, of course, my top one is Empire, my lowest one is Solo. Actually, it's a kind of a battle between Solo and Attack of the Clones.
Yeah.
Both of which get beat out completely by either the holiday special or the Clone Wars movie.
See, for me, out of the prequels, Attack of the Clones is my favorite.
You actually liked Attack of the Clones the best?
I actually liked Attack of the Clones the best.
That's interesting. You're one of the first people I've ever talked to that said that. Why is Attack of the Clones your favorite of the prequels?
I just happen to like the action in it. I like the whole clones story arc because I love the Clone Wars as well.
Right.
I love that whole introduction of, okay, now we get the start of the Clone Wars that was talked about in Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
And we get to see it. Just like we got to see, Rogue One. That was the video game I've wanted to see. And I love Rogue One because of, it was the story that was never really told, that we always dream, made up. What was this? And then we finally get to see it. And it's like, cool. Now we know too how Luke became Red 5.
Yeah.
So,
Rogue One is, by the way, is my number 2 film, just under Empire. It's actually kind of funny.
Same here.
And
I go Empire, I go Rogue One, then I go Star Wars.
I go Empire, Rogue One. Believe it or not, Revenge of the Sith.
See, Revenge of the Sith is, I feel is one of the weaker films. I mean, great ending near the end, but this is where my co-hosts like to pick on me. As I said, in the prequels, Attack of the Clones is my favorite.
Right.
I think Revenge of the Sith would be better if they cut out a lot of the love story in it, and mainly the apartment sequences. They're unnecessary.
See, I feel that exact same way for Last Jedi. If you cut out things like the whole entire Canto Bite sequence, it would make it a better film. So I'm actually with you on this metaphor. I get it.
So they pick on me with, but that's what Attack of the Clones was, nothing but a love story. I said, yeah, but there was a lot more action interwoven. It didn't feel like a love story. Not a love story in the way that it feels like in Revenge of the Sith.
I'll slightly agree with you on that. I mean, I don't agree. I don't agree that there wasn't as much or as exciting adventure in Revenge of the Sith, but I'll agree that the love story was already in 2, that they probably could have done without adding it in 3 and just concentrated more on this is the ending of the Clone Wars and the rise of the Empire.
They didn't need to do as much of the love story. We get at the beginning, oh, she's pregnant. Okay, cool. Did we get the one apartment scene where the two of them were sleeping together and he has a nightmare that she dies? Mm-hmm. Cool. we don't need to carry that for 3 more scenes.
Right.
3 more different scenes. For me, it was Revenge of the Sith, the whole love story thing, played out like how it would play out if you were on the playground. Or if you had your action figures and when we were kids, how we would have the love stories with the figures. To me, that's how it played out. And I'm like, okay, that was cheesy way back then. It's cheesy now.
So you brought back a weird memory when you're talking about like how we would make films with our action figures or how we would see films. And I don't know why, but the only thing that popped in my head is grabbing all my figures on a day that it snowed, just so I could have a battle on Hoth.
Yeah. My parents would get, or my dad would get something new, and I kept all the white styrofoam and used toothpicks to go into the footholes so I could turn it into a Hoth playset.
I was one of those kids though, because even like different franchise obviously, but Thunderstorms I would look forward to because I would swing open the front door, the screen door would be closed, but swing open the front door and set up my Castle Grayskull, for He-Man and stuff. Yeah.
I used for a while as a Rebel base. I had the old Fisher Price Little People Castle.
Oh God, really?
I think it ended up being my brother's, but I turned around and used it for a base. Nice. I was like, hey, it's about the right size.
Nice. Yeah, with the Hoth scenes and stuff like that. Like I said, I would wait for snow and wait for my parents to shovel off like the porch or the driveway, and where you have the snow mounts and stuff. And then I'd be out there digging out the tunnels and then the trenches and putting the Star Wars figures in those. And I mean, that was my thing, and so it was a weird memory you just brought back with mentioning that, like the love scene being what we would do with our toys,
Yeah.
As long as none of us were recreating the Luke Leia kiss from Empire, just let that die.
then you would lose them until the snow melted.
I still think there's a frozen lightsaber somewhere in my old backyard growing up. I fully believe they're in the ground somewhere.
See, now if we want to talk lightsabers, I had one of the original play lightsabers where it was the vinyl blow up blade that you attached to a flashlight.
I didn't have that. I had the plastic one where the blade was a hard plastic, but the tip of it was cut open like a cross piece. So when you swung it,
yeah.
I had one of those. I never had the blow up one though. That's interesting.
Yeah, I had the blow up one that came out in '78.
Yeah, the one I had was Luke's green lightsaber, so it had to be 83, 84.
Well, they knew it was kind of bad when it came with patch kits. So there were some issues. That there were some potential issues when it came with patch kits.
I think my mother broke down and bought me the Luke lightsaber when I was a kid because she got tired of me stealing her broomsticks. Because she'd buy a green or a blue or a red broomstick, and automatically I was taking it and wrapping electrical tape around the one part that would be the hilt, and then be outside with my buddies, with my lightsaber.
Yep.
What the hell happened to my broom?
Nothing.
Nothing. I don't know. Did you throw it away? I thoroughly believe that my mother bought me that lightsaber just so I would leave her brooms alone. But God, that's just what else? What other great little toy memories do you have? Because this one's interesting. This is a conversation I don't normally get to have. Is
the old Kenner commercials? The
commercials?
Just the old Kenner commercials back in the day,
which you can find on YouTube.
Yeah. But like when you had the commercial and you got the Like when they talked about mail away for the rocket launching Boba Fett, which never came to fruition.
Yeah. See, I remember, and I still have it actually. I remember like Emperor Palpatine was a mail away. You couldn't buy him in stores. You had to mail off to get him when Jedi first came out. You know,
Palpatine was a mail away. Fett was a mail away.
I believe Jabba was as well, like the Jabba playset or the original Jabba playset.
No, there was a Empire Strikes Back accessory kit mail away that came with a couple Hoth Rebel Trooper backpacks, the Minoc masks, some more guns, and something else. There was the figure stand was a mail away that had the X-Wing and TIE Fighter cardboard background.
Okay.
That was a giveaway, mail away. I want to say there was another, besides Boba Fett, I thought there was another.
There might have been. You're talking
another mail away.
Talking
See,
about. I can almost remember the original Jabba, where he was sitting on the little his little platform, but the platform would open up so it'd be quote unquote the Sarlacc pit.
See, I remember buying that in the store.
I don't know if that was second gen though. I think first gen was mail away only. I can't remember though. I could be wrong. You know, so people listening in comment section down below, if you remember, was it a mail away or am I just completely wrong on that? I know later on it was available in stores. I almost feel like it first started off as a mail away. Maybe it's not. Maybe it was Bib Fortuna that was a mail away for all I know.
Yeah. I'm looking on rebelscum.com.
Oh. Cheat sheets.
79 Fett. That was a mail away.
It wasn't the breakaway 3PO from Empire, was it? No, he wasn't a mail away. Now you had me thinking about it now.
Yeah.
See, I forgot about Boba Fett being a mail away, but I fully remembered Palpatine was the mail away.
Akbar was a mail away originally.
Okay, Admiral Akbar was a mail away. All right, so I was wrong.
I remember Akbar being a mail away.
Well, now you have me wondering, did I even have him growing up? I don't know. It's too long ago. Too many figures. Too many lost figures.
See, they really don't list them as mail-aways on here.
That would be.
But now I'm still curious.
He's gonna look it up, folks. We're gonna get that answer today. So, what was your overall impression of the new trilogy while you're looking that up? Obviously it's not the original trilogy. Obviously, it's not even the prequel trilogy. But for what it was, what was your overall impression of the sequels?
I enjoyed it because I enjoyed watching my daughter enjoy it.
Okay.
And that was the thing for me, being a dad. Like when we took her to see Force Awakens, my dad was still alive, so we got to. There was that 3 generations watching it, watching a film. 2 of us having seen the first 2 sequels with no problems, but her experiencing the movies in the theater for the first time. So I kind of watched myself watching her more than I did watching the film, but I enjoyed the film quite a bit. Um, so, so I enjoyed that. That I think for me, that's where I get the joy with these films. Is even though I'm critical, and she's critical, and she has Force Awakens in her top 5.
All right.
But it's funny, she doesn't have Last Jedi in her top 5, but she'll watch it. And she enjoys watching it. So it's like, okay, this is wild that how she comes up with this. But it's her. And I love watching her make up her own mind, her own decisions, and develop her own interest.
Well, of course, and I agree with you because I got 2 young children as well, and like my daughter, my daughter absolutely adores, like, her 2 favorite Star Wars characters of all time are Darth Vader and Rey. She, because I before I set them down, they were still a little too young to take to the theater when Force Awakens came out and Last Jedi. So I sat them down and I did them right. I made them watch the original trilogy, then the prequels, and then finally Force Awakens. And, so.
See, I did the same thing. But with my daughter, I had her watch the original trilogy how we saw them in the theaters. Because I've got the DVDs where the bonus discs. Well, I have the DVDs when they first were released, but I also have the DVDs where the bonus discs was
the unaltered,
the unaltered cut,
right,
in the 2.0 sound.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't get to do that for my kids. They unfortunately they went with special editions because that's what I had, Blu-rays. But because I still have the original trilogy unaltered and all that, but it's VHS.
Okay.
Who has a VHS player anymore?
So I hear you, but I still have them.
I still have them. I just can't play them for the kids because I don't have a VHS player.
I have a copy of each VHS movie up through Phantom Menace. Because Phantom Menace was the last one released on VHS.
Was it? Because I remember owning the other 2 on VHS.
Attack of the Clones was released on VHS overseas. Revenge of the Sith never released.
Maybe I'm wrong then. All right, I don't have the prequel trilogies on VHS, but I could have sworn I did at one point. I could be wrong.
There were like 3 different variations of the original trilogy. There was the original trilogy as is.
Then there was the cleaned up version, and then there was the silver and gold special editions.
There was the clean up version that introduced surround sound, and then there was the special editions.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I have I still have the special editions and all that too. But yeah, I have I don't have the original one. I have the THX remastered.
Okay. Now here. So I found the answer about the Melloways.
Oh, here it is. All right.
So the original Melloway was the early bird kit.
Yeah, I remember
which you
that.
paid for. You bought, you paid for, you sent it in, you got, there were the stickers, the mail-in form, et cetera, and the infamous IOU cardboard diorama in the empty box. And then they would come afterwards. Soon after, the first bona fide Melloway was the legendary rocket-firing, quote-unquote, Boba Fett. Boba Fett made his first appearance in the Star Wars Holiday Special, and Kenner decided to release him as a mail-away in advance of Empire Strikes Back.
If I'm not mistaken, that was the white-suited Boba Fett at the time, right? Because they didn't settle on his color yet?
No, it was still the color.
Okay.
Because they took the color from the Holiday Special. He was colored in the Holiday Special.
You're right. I should know that. I have it.
So after that, we were supposed to get the rocket launching, but it had the rocket, but it did not have. It was not launching.
Fail.
Yep. Well, that's because there was some safety issues because of a Battlestar Galactica toy in which the spring-loaded missile got shot down some kid's throat and he choked on it.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. Supposedly. After that, Kenner would do several more Melloway offers in the next couple years, including a sneak preview of Bosk. I forgot about Bosk.
Yeah, how do we all forget about Bosk?
I think that's how I first got Bosk, was Melloway. The weapons pack, which we talked about.
Right.
And Admiral Akbar.
Okay.
And then afterwards, there was came the Emperor in 1983.
Okay, so I was obviously correct about the Emperor. That one I remembered. That was the one I remembered the most. Is really as far as the mailaways.
That was the last one I got. Because the one after that was the Elder Anakin Skywalker in ghost form. Or no, not in ghost form, but as he appeared at the end of the original cut, Return of the Jedi.
Right.
In his Jedi robes.
Robert Shaw, I think it was.
I think so.
The Robert Shaw of Anakin.
Yeah. Yeah.
I forgot you could order that. You're right.
And it was essentially the body of Obi-Wan Kenobi, except the hand fixed, so there's no lightsaber in it, and the brown changed to
white.
The brown changed to gray.
Yeah. And the beard gone.
Yeah. Well, and then a head change.
Yeah. That's funny, though. But I forgot about that. I forgot you could get the original Anakin that way. Because when you first said Ghost Anakin, the first thing I was thinking of was the Power of the Force figures, where you were able to pick up the Obi-Wan, Yoda, and Anakin all as ghost forms.
Yeah.
Like blue see-through. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was the last time Robert Shaw was the look of Anakin, too, was that set.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Because ever since then, it's been Hayden Christensen. Love or hate it, it's been Hayden Christensen ever since. I don't know. That's something. Let me get your opinion on. That's something that's kind of sat with me a weird way. I understand what they were doing with putting Hayden as the Force Ghost of Anakin, because that was the last time he was a Jedi or a good guy. That's how he looked. But I almost feel it was kind of silly to, and I know I'm going to get slammed by people for saying this. It almost seems silly to me that if you're going to make Hayden the young Anakin as a Force Ghost, why you wouldn't give Obi-Wan the same due? You know, God forbid, I don't want to replace Sir Alec Guinness in any way, shape, or form, but it just seems like wouldn't it have been better to have, Ewan McGregor appear as the Force Ghost? But then again, I guess it would change the whole trilogy, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Well, and if that's the case, why didn't they go back in with him when he's unmasked and age Hayden Christensen in that?
I don't think that would have looked as good.
They should have left it with Robert Shaw.
I agree. I fully agree. That was kind of my argument. Was like, I don't necessarily agree with the Anakin, although I understand the reasonings. But if you do that with one, why wouldn't you do it with the other? Meaning, I would rather have had Robert Shaw and Alec Guinness standing there as opposed to Hayden and Ewan as the Force Ghost characters, because it just makes more sense to me. But what do I know? I don't know. Maybe that was an apology to Hayden for all the hate that people were giving his acting to the trilogy.
Yeah.
I never understood. Was there ever an explanation on why he decided to use Hayden? Like, like I said, I pretty much, it's a fan theory, really. I pretty much always looked at it as like, well, that was the last time Anakin was Anakin before he became Vader. So that's why he's looks like that now. But did Lucas ever give an official reason for that change?
Not that I remember hearing. Doesn't mean one wasn't given. I just don't remember hearing it.
Okay. What's the future of the franchise besides Mandalorian and Clone Wars and Obi-Wan and a Cassian TV series?
Well, they're saying now potential Ahsoka series.
See, we were gonna talk a little bit of the Clone Wars, and actually that's one of the things that does kind of bug me. Clone Wars, I don't get me wrong, I'm enjoying the season so far, and I love the fact that we're getting to see Ahsoka again. But I'm kind of disappointed that they wasted 4 episodes on Ahsoka hanging out with these 2 girls from 1313. When we know we're only getting 1 season of Clone Wars and we're not spending any time in the Clone Wars. Instead, we're dealing with Ahsoka, dealing with the Pikes. Who cares?
Yeah.
To me, it's like it seems like a wasted opportunity to not only tell more stories of leading up to Revenge of the Sith, which is what Clone Wars is supposed to do, but also, if you want to tell a story like that about Ahsoka, then have a spin-off series for Ahsoka.
Right.
Just my thought. I mean, what do you think on it?
I think the spin-off series we're going to get is going to be set during the time of the Mandalorian.
Okay.
Just because I believe that's the way it's gonna be.
Is that why there's talks of a live action Ahsoka appearing on the Mandalorian? You think so that way they can spin her off?
Yeah. Well, it's already confirmed. She's in the Mandalorian. It's
Rosario Dawson.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which, by the way, has always been my choice for Ahsoka. I've had that theoretic conversation with people before.
I wouldn't have minded seeing Ashley Eckstein continue it. But knowing Ashley, I think, and knowing and what we see of Rosario Dawson, Ashley is a little small for how she's supposed to be.
Okay.
I mean, if we look at her in the Clone Wars or in Rebels, I mean, she's taller, and I'm not talking because of her headpiece, her head tails. It's the height-wise, she's taller. I mean, she's almost looking eye to eye with Kanan.
Right.
Ashley can't do that.
Well, see, that the reason I always looked at Rosario Dawson when we would speculate about a live action Ahsoka, what came to my mind was the playful innocence that is in the character of Ahsoka from the Clone Wars. You know, before the downfall with the Jedi and all that. And I always compared it to Rosario's performance in believe it or not, Clerks 2.
Yeah.
That doughy-eyed innocence that she was able to portray and that quick smile that she was able to pull out, I could see in orange and white face paint.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. And that's why it's like I can always see her playing Ahsoka because of that factor. Like I felt she had the facial structure for it.
Right.
So when they announced it, I thought, you know, until I saw like reputable sites saying it, I was sitting there going, yeah, fan theory. You're not the first one to think that. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
Until official confirmation. But this is the first I'm hearing that they're going to use it as a jumping off point to an Ahsoka spinoff.
Yeah, I think it is going to be a that jumping off point for the spinoff.
Well, look at that, guys. I didn't think this episode would have any new news, and here's something I didn't even know. But no, that's absolutely awesome. But I mean, as far as movie-wise, I mean, we were supposed to get the Rian Johnson trilogy. That got scrapped. We were supposed to have the Game of Thrones guys, Benioff and Weiss, doing the Knights of the Old Republic. And that got canned, which pisses me off to no end, because you don't hire the guys from Game of Thrones and not do fucking Knights of the Old Republic.
Well,
Old Republic era, you know.
They bailed on their own.
Yeah, I know, but...
Because Netflix offered them more money, which I don't buy.
Yeah, you know what, though? You got to look at it this way. And again, we talked about this from like a fan or a parent standpoint, but let's look at it from a business standpoint. Okay, even if it's more money now from Netflix, here's a chance to immortalize yourself in one of the greatest movie franchises ever.
Yeah.
Which means it'll pay off down the... It's almost like an investment. You will receive royalties for the rest of your life for the film you create now.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't buy Netflix thing, or at least they left because of Netflix offering more money. Because to me,
I don't either.
Because to me, it's like it seems like it'd be more money in the long run just to release. Ron Howard's never going to hurt. Not that he ever did to begin with, but he's never going to hurt again for another dime, thanks to Solo. Even though Solo was, in Star Wars terms, a flop.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, but it's still Star Wars. He's still going to make money every time somebody buys a Kira doll.
Yeah.
Or a copy of Solo on DVD. He's going to make royalties the rest of his life on that one film. Benioff and Weiss would be retarded. Forgive me, but you know, would be absolutely stupid to not take that deal.
I agree.
You know, so yeah, I don't buy that. There has to be something else involved there. Honestly, if you want my honest opinion, and I don't want to like rock any boats with anybody that you may have connections to. But I think a lot of the problems for Star Wars lead all the way back once again to Kathleen Kennedy. I don't think she understands the franchise the way that I think Lucas wanted her to.
Hi, Amber.
I don't know. See, a lot of it is people are going, well, you know, they hear Lucas is upset because they didn't go with his story treatment that he put out there and left for him. I'm like, well, okay.
Lucas walked away with $4.5 billion. Lucas can care less.
But look at what you know, a lot of people complaining about the whole midichlorian thing. He was going to go another level deeper with the Wills and make them something microcosmic than the midichlorians.
But the thing is also people read too much.
People off.
It would have, but I think fans read way too much into midichlorians. Like, forget Jake Lloyd's after-school special question of, I've been wondering, what are midichlorians? And really delve down to it, midichlorians was a throwaway line just to help explain why Anakin was as powerful as Anakin was. It was an attempt to quantify the unquantifiable and to explain why the Force is in everything, but only Jedi have the ability to use it because of this microscopic organism. That's all it was. It didn't take away from the mysticism or anything else. It was just it was a for lack of a better term, it was a MacGuffin to explain why Anakin was the chosen one.
Yeah.
The end.
Yeah.
People read way too much into midichlorians for a throwaway line. Let's be real.
Yeah.
It didn't change like Yoda's wisdom and empire about the forces all around and luminous beings we are, and you know, that still stands. It's just, it gave an explanation on why Jedis are the only ones able to actually call upon the Force and use them. That certain people are born with that ability and certain people are not.
Right.
That's all it was. But, you know, presentation is everything.
Oh, yeah.
I think if you had better performances out of Liam Neeson and Jake Lloyd delivering those lines, and of course if the lines were written better, because I can't blame the actors all the time. Like I'm one of those defenders of Hayden Christensen. It wasn't Hayden's wooden acting; it was Lucas's dialogue that kind of killed Anakin.
Yeah.
But you know, the long and the short of it is that I think had it been presented better, people wouldn't have had an issue with midichlorians.
Yeah, and that's the problem. It wasn't presented well. It felt like it was a rushed explanation to justify why he was the chosen one.
Mm-hmm. That's what, and really, that whole entire thing was just to justify the line that it really justified was not the after school special line, like I said, where Qui-Gon and Anakin are like, "What are midichlorians?" Well, they're microscopic life forms. That was an overextension explanation of one simple lines. Was when Qui-Gon took the blood sample from Anakin, sent it to Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan said his midichlorian count's over 20,000. That's even higher than Master Yoda's. Right. That's all it was for. Now, if you would have taken out that midichlorian after-school special line, people would have just accepted that midichlorians was a way for them to quantify how powerful somebody is in the Force, and that would have been the end of it.
Yeah.
That's my personal opinion. I think it was the over-explanation that people read too much into.
I agree.
But what do I know? I'm just a guy who lives in Philly who runs a podcast through his computer. Hey,
we're just fans. We're a voice. Whether they listen to us or not, it's a whole other story.
Absolutely. And understand, I mean, there are times, and I've said this before on previous Star Wars shows that I was on or whatever, there are times where I may sound like I'm being critical, especially as somebody who may not agree to my point of view in the films or whatever. Don't get me wrong. If you didn't like something in a film, or you didn't like that particular trilogy, or you didn't like that particular line of dialogue that I may have liked, that doesn't mean I'm right and you're wrong. No, you're absolutely entitled to your opinion.
Right. But unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there who they're going to tell you, no, I'm right, you're wrong. You shouldn't be feeling that way because you're an idiot. And you don't know enough about Star Wars. And this is...
those are the ones that piss me off the most. If there is a group of fandom within the Star Wars fan base that piss me off to no end, is what I call the Star Wars elitists. The ones who, as far as they're concerned, nothing exists except for the original trilogy and the extended universe novels.
Yep.
Those are Bible. Everything else is hedonism.
And they're the ones who they're the ones who are the ones that will tell you you're wrong, they're right, whether they're right or wrong in general.
Well, that's kind of my point. The thing that pisses me off about them is that, as far as they're concerned, that's the only thing that exists. And if you enjoy any more than that, you're not a real Star Wars fan. Barred from the fact that, God forbid, people just enjoy what they want to enjoy. If the prequels are their thing, let them enjoy the prequels. If the sequels are their thing, let them enjoy the sequel. If the new canon books are their thing, or the new canon comics are their thing, let them enjoy it. Dude, nobody's telling you can't watch the original trilogy and read the old canon or the Legends novels. They're still available. You could watch them to your heart's content, but don't hate somebody else because they watch the rest of it or read the rest of it. That's the problem. Like, there are, to give you an example on the opposite of the coin, there are Legends books that I absolutely adore. We just mentioned it with the Heir to the Empire trilogy. Was an absolute great series. The Hand of Thrawn series, basically anything by Timothy Zahn, is absolutely phenomenal. Anything from John Jackson Miller is absolutely phenomenal. But then I also remember things that absolutely piss me off that I'm glad are destroyed from the EU. Things like Chewie being crushed by a moon.
Yeah.
Rogue Planet. I'm glad these books are not canon anymore. So that there's good and bad in both. And even with the new canon, I mean, come on, look at Heir to the Jedi. I believe it's the book, the first one, where Luke walks in on an alien masturbating. There's just some things that are not good regardless.
Yeah. But on the other side of those, though, I loved, from the Clone Wars era, I loved the whole Republic Commando line.
Republic Commando was awesome. The X-Wing series, Rogue Squadron was absolutely phenomenal. I could live without the Yuuzhan Vong, but Children of the Force, I believe it was, where Luke was first setting up his Jedi Temple at Yavin 4. Yeah. That was a great series.
Yep.
There were some great series within the extended universe, and they're still available. Disney bought the property and said this shit is no longer canon, but they didn't say we're taking it off the shelves and not producing it. It's still available.
But it wasn't Disney who said that. It was Lucasfilm who came out and said it.
Well, fair enough, but
Lucasfilm came out and said, we need to. We're getting a chance to start over. We're starting over, and at this point in time, everything previous to this point, except for the Sons of Dathomir arc from Dark Horse Comics,
right?
The original Straczynski Clone Wars and any of the game stuff is not canon. Point blank. From here forward will be canon, and we will do our best to bring in the best parts of the old EU back into canon.
But here's the thing, even though they said that, and that's the point I was going to, it didn't mean they put a stop on the Legends series at all, the EU.
No.
They're still available. They're still producing them. They're still letting them be re-released. They may have new covers saying Legends on them, but Lucasfilm, Disney, Del Rey, whoever is still putting these books out. You can still get them.
Yeah.
They're just not canon. That's all.
Yeah. They're slowly going to be difficult to find because they're not going to be as produced.
I think
you can still get a lot of it.
I think there's a happy medium people could have, and I've stated this before on one of those other shows I talked about before. As much as it's cool that they're releasing canon material, and a lot of the canon material has been good. The Ahsoka series is phenomenal. The new Thrawn series has been extraordinary.
The Dooku book is amazing.
I haven't read Dooku's yet.
It's actually an audiobook. The actual book that's come out is just the script to the audiobook.
Okay.
Because the audiobook's done dramatized.
Okay. I'll have to check that out.
It's amazing.
Lords of the Sith, absolutely amazing. Lost Star, obviously, was like one of the pinnacles of the new canon. So, I mean,
I loved Aftermath. A lot of people are very critical of Aftermath. Very critical of the author, but I
like the last two books. I didn't like the first one. The first one was actually slow to me. But Empire's End and the other one, I can't remember its name. off the top of my head. Like the second and third book of the trilogy I thought were phenomenal, but the first one was a little slow for me.
Yeah, I can see that.
But like I said, as much as the new canon, there's a lot of great stuff in there. But I think a happy medium for the EU fans is there's not, to my mind, Del Rey, Lucasfilm, there's nothing that says you guys can't let authors still write fan fiction. Just let them write in the Legends series in the EU.
Well, what they're doing now is anything being written now is all going to be part of canon, which is, I think, is great because now we have a definitive what's going on and what's happening. Because for me, in the comic side, I love Dr. Aphra.
See, I was not a fan of Aphra.
See, I love Aphra. I loved her in the first Vader series. I loved her in
now the Vader
series.
Now the Vader series is both Vader series and Vader Down. Oh my God!
Yeah, Vader Down was great. Screaming Citadel was great.
But as far as Dr. Aphra, I think it's the character. I think it's the character I don't care for not because I don't think she's a decent character. The best way to describe it is she's a character. She doesn't feel like a Star Wars character. She feels like a character in Star Wars, if that makes sense. She feels like somebody who's playing in the Star Wars universe but isn't a Star Wars person.
I kind of see that.
So that kind of takes me out of it with her. Now, some of the story arcs that she's involved with, like you said, the Screaming Citadel, the Vader runs and stuff, like, Star Wars main comic series, absolutely phenomenal. But the character itself, I've never gotten into, and it's because she feels like out of place to me.
Yeah. See, I think she fits right in place. I love how they're putting her in spots where she could have existed during. Yeah, we maybe could have seen her on Mos Eisley.
Right.
During A New Hope or Star Wars.
Say it right.
But we don't see her at all, and I'm hoping we eventually see her. I would love to see her in Mandalorian. I would love to potentially see her in Cassian Andor.
Maybe that would be the difference makers. Like I said, she feels, and I hate using this term, but she feels Disney to me. So maybe the difference would be if we took her off screen and gave her a live action, or even if she appeared in, one of the episodes of Clone Wars, where they gave me something more fleshed out than what I've seen on page, then maybe my opinion would change.
But I see, that's where I disagree, because I feel like Karen Gillian is coming at it as a complete Star Wars thing, not not trying to make her a Disney character.
Right. That's why I hated using that phrase, but for lack of a better term.
I actually liked. I like her character. I like what's been done with her. And I just think it's going to be interesting to see how they continue through.
And to be fair, for people who are listening that are Dr. Aphra fans, I don't say I hate the character.
No, you're saying you hate the character.
No, I'm saying I don't necessarily, I'm not into the character. But I don't hate the character. Quite honestly, there's only one character in all of Star Wars I absolutely hate, and no, it's not Jar Jar Binks.
Oh, really? Who would that be?
L337.
Oh, yes. Okay.
I hate L337 because she was a walking, talking political bias who did not belong in Star Wars, and quite honestly, she kind of ruined one of the funnier jokes in Empire Strikes Back. When 3PO is plugged into the Falcon, he says, "I don't know where your ship learned to communicate, but it has a most peculiar dialect." Well, now forevermore we know that dialect is L337, talking about droid liberation and...
Yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely despise L337.
I didn't... It didn't bother me. L337 didn't bother me. But I could see where, yeah, maybe she didn't really lend herself a lot to the plot of the movie, except she becomes the intelligence for the Falcon in order to help whatchamacallit.
To help Han
to help
them.
get them through the Kessel Run.
Yeah, the maelstrom.
Make that Kessel Run. Yeah.
But again, that's a nitpick thing. It's like I didn't like the character because I didn't like the fact that it felt like people were forcing points of view on you through the character.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I don't care what your points of view or political points of view are, whether you agree or disagree with some of the points of view that L337 was pointing out there. I didn't think it belonged in the movie. It really, to me, it took away from the movie instead of just letting the movie flow the way it needed to be, the way it should have flowed.
I can see that.
That being said, even with my absolute disdain for L337, and trust me, I'm not a big fan of Jar Jar Binks either. I just don't hate him as much as L337. It doesn't mean I fast forward their parts in the films. It's the same with Dr. Africa. Like I said, I may not go and buy Afra's individual comic because I'm not a fan of the character, but it's not like I'm skipping issues of Star Wars or Darth Vader because she's in it.
Yeah. Well, I'm buying her comic, one, because I do like it. Two, completion-wise, I am trying to collect all the current Marvel Star Wars books as they come out. So I try and get everything.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, again, with the Afra, I buy them, but I buy them for my girl. My wife actually enjoys the Afra series, so I buy them for her. So I do have them available to read. I just don't read them.
Yeah. Now here's the other fun one. Marvel Unlimited has a lot of the Legends books from the original Marvel run and the Dark Horse run.
Nice.
On Marvel Unlimited.
Which is really funny because people who like the older stuff, Dark Horse was a great franchise for Star Wars to be on. I thought a lot of the stories on there for the EU comic series is Dark Horse had it on point. But you look at the original Marvel stuff and it was very, again, for lack of a better term, it was like reading old school G.I. Joe stuff or He-Man stuff. It was really out there for Star Wars.
But it was great because that's how we survived Star Wars in between the films.
Oh, absolutely. But I mean, if you feed all the current canon and all the Dark Horse canon and first, and then you go back to the original Star Wars runs or Marvel Star Wars runs, that's some weird shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very strange.
Yes, it is.
Great, but strange. Comparatively, absolutely. But you're right. They're awesome. I mean, there's a comic shop out here, up in Montgomery County, Willow Grove area, and they sell like completion encyclopedias for like $150.
Oh wow!
Including the original Marvel Star Wars runs, and I've been promising myself forever that I'm going to pick those up. They're just expensive. But it's awesome to see that they have them, and it's like, man, I just want to get them and read them because I know they're going to be so out there. The best way I can describe it is like, the analogy I can give is go watch the original sci-fi, or not the original, but the sci-fi mini movie Dune.
Yeah.
and then go back and watch the 1984 Dune. That's what it's like to read current canon first, and then go back and read the original Marvel material. That's how night and day it is to my mind. I could be completely wrong, but to my mind, you know.
Yeah, it does feel like that at times. Yeah.
What are you most looking forward to in the that we know of in the upcoming stuff for Star Wars? What's got you most excited?
I can't wait for season 2 of Mandalorian.
It's really funny. That series, when they first announced Mandalorian, I had the same feeling for Mandalorian that I did for Solo. Story I didn't ask for. But it really did wind up being the series that kind of saved Star Wars, isn't it?
You didn't ask for it, but you wanted it.
I really didn't. I'm not one of those people that's all in on the Mandalorian culture. Boba Fett is an overrated character to me. You know, his fandom is overrated to me. Like, I don't hate Boba Fett. It's just, you know, I don't see the appeal. So when they were talking about, oh, here's the Mandalorian, I'm like, I don't care. Like, I'm gonna watch it as Star Wars, but I don't care. I'm not uberly excited, and I was wrong. This series is phenomenal. It was not what I was expecting it to be. And, you know, first off, this is what happens when you put Star Wars in the hand of somebody who cares. And Jon Favreau absolutely cares. And, of course, Dave Filoni is George Lucas Jr.
See, we keep saying Filoni needs to be put in a Kevin Feige position at Lucasfilm. Let Kathleen Kennedy still control the company, run the company, make the money decisions. But when it comes to the creativity and storylines and everything, it needs to be Dave Filoni.
Absolutely. And like I said, you know, with I agree with you 120,000%. And like I said, you know, and then with the Mandalorian, you just Dave Filoni and Kathleen Kennedy, you just give carte blanche to Favreau, because Favreau eats up Star Wars lore like a fat kid eats cake.
Well, I think the Deborah Chow is a great fit for that as well.
Okay.
So, I mean, look at her episodes of Mandalorian. They were awesome.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. You know, but it's still Favreau's executive producing when he's not directing. I mean, this is kind of his series.
Yeah.
You know, so that's why I kept saying Favreau. But yeah, even the individual directors that have been involved, absolutely. But I mean, you give Favreau carte blanche, because if this season did nothing else, it should, you know, put everybody's fears to rest. That, you know, John knows what he's doing. Whether it's hiring the right directors or making sure the story goes in the right direction, John's got this, because John is a legitimate Star Wars fan.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's no... I don't doubt J.J. Abrams is a legit Star Wars fan. I just... How he envisions Star Wars compared to Favreau is apples and oranges.
Oh yeah, it's night and day.
But
you know what? Again, I don't necessarily blame JJ for the way Star Wars went either. I mean, two reasons on this. One, there was never a set plan in place for this trilogy, which was a mistake. It should have been planned out altogether. Number two, and no, I'm not going to go the route that Rian Johnson went a completely left field approach and JJ had to damage control with Rise of Skywalker. No, Rian still couldn't do what Rian did without JJ's approval. And okay, he was the over executive producer of it. So he still
JJ
knew what was going on. Yeah, he still knew what was going on. But besides JJ's lack of planning for the trilogy beforehand, JJ's always had an issue. Look at Lost. He's had an issue where he comes out with something phenomenal and doesn't stick the landing. The ending series of Lost. Does anybody understand what the fuck was going on?
I stopped watching Lost after season 1. Actually, after episode 3 of season 1.
Well, that's kind of my point. Like, JJ's a great director and a great storyteller. But the problem is JJ sometimes just doesn't know how to end a story. He doesn't know how to tell the end.
Yeah.
And I think with Rise of Skywalker...
I saw that with... whatchamacallit? Alias as well.
That's right, he was Alias. Well, again...
I love that series.
Yeah, it's a good series, but again, it had a terrible ending. Rise of Skywalker, I thought, had a lot of great story beats. But it felt Abrams to me, where he didn't necessarily stick the landing that he could have. Now, we could argue the points left, right, and 6 Ways from Sunday on so many things going on in the movie that might have been retconning or was planned all along. And we would probably pull all our hair out trying to figure out which was which. So I'd rather just say, okay, this was Abrams' plan all along, whether it was playing off of what Ryan did or he was planning it all along from day one. That's what it is. But there were certain story points throughout this whole entire trilogy that just didn't really land at the end. And the things I could point out are things like the Knights of Ren, for example, were a complete waste. Phasma were a complete waste. Where the Empire... I know they're trying to set up where people buy books and read comics and watch the TV shows and all that, but I mean... how the Empire amassed such a fleet during the time while puppeting the First Order, the rise of the First Order, and there was just a lot of things that Abrams could have closed the book on in this trilogy that didn't.
Yeah.
And I know I'm nitpicking, but I enjoyed the film.
Oh.
I didn't hate the film, but I just feel that if this is supposed to be the end of the Skywalker saga, this is the end of this trilogy, this is the end of the whole entire saga. You could have ended it tighter than this.
Yep. Yeah.
That doesn't mean I don't enjoy sitting down and watching it when I sit down and have my Star Wars marathon.
I get it. Yeah.
But to me, it begs for an episode 10, 11, and 12.
See, I don't want 10, 11, and 12. That's my thing. I don't think we need it.
I think it left the door open for it. But if you're going to do it, please, 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 no more Death Star wannabes, no more Palpatine clones. Let it be something. One of the things I was looking forward to the Rian Johnson trilogy is that it had nothing to do with the Skywalkers. Had nothing to do with what has been set thus far.
Yeah.
One of the things I was looking forward to the Benioff and Weiss movies, besides it being, the Old Republic, was that it was going to be thousands of years before any of the Star Wars movies. So it was brand new territory.
And I think it's because of what Benioff and Weiss were rumored to be doing is why we're getting the High Republic era.
What is this? I haven't found any. I've seen people talking about it, but I haven't found anything to tell me what the hell the High Republic shit is.
High Republic is 400 years before the Skywalker saga.
Okay.
So it's kind of still continuation of the Old West. Jedis are your law keepers. As far as we know, there are no Sith. But what is it that the Jedi are afraid of? We don't know. We're going to find out, type thing.
This is a book series, a comic series. What is it?
It's going to be a combination of both, and could potentially lead to these characters also being used for either a Disney Plus series or potential films. Is what we're speculating.
Okay. See, I've been catching wind and rumors about it, but I didn't know what it was. Anything about it, like I didn't know if it was going to be a new cartoon series or a comic book or or what? It's like, what is this High Republic? Is it going to be a new expansion for Star Wars: The Old Republic MMO, which, by the way, is still running for EU fans. Still running and still updating.
Yeah, which is amazing. And it's not canon.
It's not canon, but yet Lucasfilm and LucasArts are keeping it running with BioWare.
Yeah.
So, I can't say Lucasfilm completely abandoned the EU. They just didn't make it canon.
Yeah.
And that's proof. But yeah, I mean, so I didn't know if it was going to be something for that. A new expansion for that or something, which was kind of my first thought when I saw it.
Yeah, I don't think they know.
Who?
Well, they know. It's just there's still more. It's still a tease of what's going on.
Who released the details?
Star Wars, Lucasfilm released the details.
Okay. So they're the ones that are putting the feelers out, seeing how people would feel about this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, as long as it wasn't something like a Mike Zeroth rumor. We know how reliable he is.
Or Ehmcke or anything from We Got This Covered.
Oh, God, yeah. I made the mistake of one time believing We Got This Covered, and now that's all I ever see on like my Facebook news feed. And almost every single one of them is like, bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. If I even pay attention to them, and I'll just scroll by.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, normally this show is a half an hour, and we've done 3 episodes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we've been going at it for a while here. So I'm going to...
Supersized.
It's supersized. So that's all right. I was enjoying having the conversation. But I definitely think we should be cutting this out here. It's about midnight here. For people who are listening in, we pre-record these just like, Wookee Radio, which right now Mike is going to tell you all about and where you can find it and the nights that it's on and where else they can contact you.
We dropped the show. It's on Saturday nights at 7:00 on Sorcerer Radio, srsounds.com. We drop as a podcast either Sunday or Monday on WookieRadio.net, and you can find it anywhere you listen to podcasts. Hopefully it's on Podcast Addict, as Chris was looking earlier.
I didn't find it. Honest, I didn't find it.
I think we're there. Because I had someone else tell me. A good friend of mine listens through Podcast Addict. And it is Wookee with 2 E's, not 1. Which people make that mistake as well.
Wookee.
Correct. Yep.
I'll try again. I didn't find it the first time, but then again, phone apps.
Yeah. Phone apps are absolutely nuts. But yeah, so we're there. Check us out. So yeah, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at Wookee Radio, all one word, or we're on all those locations. So
radio.net. Let's try it that way. Of course, and then for contacting you, if anybody wants to contact you.
To contact us through the show, it's Wookee at WookieRadio.net, or if you want to contact me direct, it's Mike at WookieRadio.net.
All right, great. And guys, of course, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did in any capacity, hit that thumbs up button, like, share, comment, subscribe. Check out all the other great Let's Plays and tabletop content of Sounds Dicey Gaming, and of course the podcast here at Realm of the Mist Entertainment. And if you prefer your podcast in audio only format, you guys, we got you covered. Just look up Realm of the Mist Entertainment on Anchor.fm, Apple, iTunes, Spotify, Pandora, or wherever quality podcasts can be heard, including Podcast Addict. I know that because I have us on there too. Guys, thank you very much for hanging out with us. Look forward to me turning the tides a little bit here and one day invading Wookee Radio. little bit cleaner mouth, maybe not. We'll find out. But guys,
Yeah, we're going to talk about that after show as well.
that's it. But especially, guys, go check out Wookee Radio. This guy's phenomenal. Give them as much love. Let them know Realm of the Mist sent you, and I will catch you on the next Journal of the Jedi. Have a good night.